as I was putting this together, I was wondering about the private jet market. So as you remember, 2020, 2021, everybody was buying private jets, their own private jets. They were chartering or they were doing fractional shares. And so I was just interested to go take a look back at what's happened. So in 2020, 2021, again, as we saw tons and tons of entrepreneurs buying private jets, using financing, 0% down, depreciating it, talking about it as a tax strategy. Then reality hit, prices went way up as all the demand hit. Then prices went way down as bonus depreciation rules changed, as financing costs went up. So ultra low interest rates was a big tailwind there. So when their interest rates were low, it was easier to finance these jets. And then you combine that with bonus depreciation. You could put the jet into business use and deduct it if it was only used for business. And then you kind of had also the backlog of aircraft at the time. So there was a lot of supply in the market. So that was kind of what we saw. But then I think 2022 to 2024, there was what I'd call the hangover. And from here, interest rates skyrocketed with inflation increasing the Fed increased interest rates. Cost of ownership went way through the roof. Insurance, hangar costs, all of the COVID inflation just really ravaged it. And then I think a lot of entrepreneurs were sold this idea that you can then buy your jet, charter it out to others, and you get to fly your jet for free because other people are going to pay for it. Well, that charter demand never really came to fruition. And so now people are writing checks for $100,000 a month to keep this airplane that they were taking 6 times a year on the tarmac.
Yeah, I can tell you in 30 years of doing this, I have never seen that fantasy pencil out. I don't use the word never often, to where you can have a private jet, charter it, and you get your jets free. So that's one problem with that whole thing. And even if it's penciling out, as soon as you have a problem, mechanical problem, pilot problem, whatever, then the whole thing goes sideways. Generally, a private jet is convenience and time savings. If your time is worth $10,000 an hour and that convenience will save you that time, then it could financially pan out, but it doesn't pan out as a standalone. And in fact, one of our clients was asking me about this one time, and he was saying, hey, I'm thinking, because he got pitched this idea, why don't I buy like 20 jets and then just charter them all out and make all this money? And I said, how many entrepreneurs do you know who have 20 jets? And he goes, I don't know any. I said, me either. There's a reason why. That's not going to work, right? Otherwise, you become an airline. That's how it works if you become an airline. So yeah, it's like a fantasy that they want to do that, but private jet is a cost.
Yeah.
It is always a cost. And if you have enough money, and by the way, entrepreneurs back in the heyday thought they had enough money when they really didn't. You need a lot of money to have. What would you say someone needs to have in capital before they should do a private jet?
Well, I think the thing that I loved is 2 and 20. And this isn't to buy your own private jet, but this is to start flying private on your own, is 2 and 20. $2 million a year of take home and $20 million liquid net worth. I think that when you're at 2 and 20, then chartering and flying private makes sense. Not buying, but that's where I think it's like, all right, it makes sense for you to stop flying first class and start, chartering.
And that's not from a financial perspective, right? That's just from a convenience and a better life perspective, unless it helps your business.
And you can afford it at that time, right? If you're making $2 million a year net and you're worth $20 million liquid, I think you've built up enough that you're probably
right. Because ultimately, financially, you're better off investing that money.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you're always underwater financially.
But that's where it starts to make sense. Yeah, I could see that too. And then, much higher than that to actually buy your own jet.
Yeah, I agree.
At any rate, that's what I see with private jets. And I mean, the other thing about private jets is, with jet cards and all that stuff and chartering, I've known entrepreneurs who could afford their own private jet, but they don't. Why? Because they don't have to deal with pilots and maintenance. If their plane is down, they have no other option. Here they're doing a jet card service. So if one plane's down, they'll substitute another plane for the service. So that's what I'd encourage you. Even if you can afford a private jet, maybe a jet card of some kind serves you better with less headaches, because it's a great thing to brag to your friends too, that you have your own private jet. But I've known a lot of entrepreneurs that later on, they're like, I wish I never did this private jet thing.
Yeah. I'd say most of them are in that latter category.
Most of them. Yeah. And then also when you sell your plane, all that depreciation gets recaptured.
Oh yeah.
You can't 1031 it like a piece of real estate. And that can be a surprise to entrepreneurs too.
Yeah. You're just kicking the can down the road. So we do have a chart here that just shows inventory and pricing dynamics here from the first half 2024 versus first half 2025. So the good news is that things are recovering. So inventory units for sale has gone up. So inventory is up 3%, which isn't necessarily good. Average asking price is down 9%, so 6.4 million versus 5.8 million.
Wow.
Average aircraft age up from 21 to 22 years. Average days on the market up 8%, 368 days to 418 days. So the market is starting to get a little bit better. This is actually improvement. I know it doesn't look good, but things were really, really bleak in 23 and 24. But things are starting to move a little bit here, which is good.
Yeah, you think about the volatility in a market like this, because let's say you have a company jet. Well, if the company's having problems, guess what's one of the first things they probably get rid of is the company jet because of how expensive they are and how it looks. If the company's struggling and the CEO is going around on a private jet, that's not a good image, right? Yeah, so it can, and same thing with chartering. Like if someone's chartering, that's something very easy to give up. They're not stuck in any long-term things. They go, hey, we chartered last year. This year things aren't as good, or I'm nervous. I'm not going to charter.
Yep. And I think there was a lot of people that were projecting this huge increase in private jet travel that did start in 2020, 2021. And that is true. Like even now, the usage is 10% above the pre-COVID levels. But I think they extrapolated out that growth would continue to compound. And really, we're back to kind of a 3% year-over-year growth. The problem is the pricing of these jets ran away way more than the demand did. Yep. And so now that's why the price of the jets has come down. So yes, there is a permanent lockup or a permanent step up in demand, but not nearly enough to substantiate what was happening on the pricing of the jets. And then the maintenance cost is just through the roof, and the insurance costs and the hangar costs. It's like all of those, and like I said, the pilot costs, and then all of that stuff that's affiliated with it. That's what really frustrates the entrepreneurs. It's just like a whole nother thing. It's like a big old house, right? It's like all the yard work. It's all the stuff that comes with it that property taxes got to deal with.
Yeah, I have a friend, Lloyd Reeb, who's coached some extremely wealthy people. And one thing he said to me is that often what happens with the extreme wealthy people is they end up creating all this complexity in their life that stresses them out. And so they end up with 3 homes and 2 boats, and they got the plane and all this stuff, and there's just constant management.
Yeah.
And so I remember when he told me that, I thought, well, you know what? We've done a pretty good job, Mimi and I. 1 house, 2 cars. Like we have made sure that we are staying simple. And even, we go to Park City in the summer a lot. People are always like, do you have a place out there? Nope. We don't want a vacation home. We don't want a second home. We don't want a third home. We just want to keep our life simple. And you could argue that there are reasons why we should own a home in Park City. But I would tell you that every time I try to bring those reasons to Mimi, she's like, no, I want our life simple. I don't want our life complicated. And that's a lesson that I think a lot of entrepreneurs would wish they had heard, because when they get to 50, 100, 150 million, then pretty soon they have all these properties. I remember when I met Ed Milet, and he was talking about selling one of his houses, and I think he's got 12 or 15 homes. And he was going, man, this is stressing me out. He goes, it's a beautiful house. He goes, I got all these beautiful, they're all amazing properties, but I can't visit them. And man, I got the insurance. I got all these things. And so hearing Ed talk about the complexity and the stress that he's got from all these houses, I'm like, boy, I tell you what. And by the way, I'm nowhere near as rich as Ed Milet. I admire him a lot for many of the things he's done. However, I've seen this, and I'd say at any level, one thing you want to just be a little careful about is getting excited about having all these different things that with each one of them come complexity and management. And don't underestimate how that stacks, and pretty soon your life is run around by all these things that you bought that you thought would be cool.
Yep, things drive you. Well, we got another chart here that just shows the business jet market size by the size of the jet. So just breaking it down between the very light jets, medium, and heavies. And so 35 billion is the size of the market today, up from about 26, 27 billion in pre-COVID. So there has been tremendous growth in the size of the market, and they are projecting some more growth here overall. But as you mentioned, the depreciation laws now are back. So with the One Big Beautiful Bill past the 4th of July, you can now bonus depreciate. So it'll be interesting to see if that provides some tailwinds that now entrepreneurs can get that depreciation deduction. Again, that's just a deferral. You will recapture that depreciation when you sell the jet. And if interest rates kind of stabilize or even continue to come down, maybe the affordability of these jets increases too. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where this jet market goes, and if some more demand creeps back in here.
Yeah, and also, and I don't know if we want to mention about entity structure, because you don't want to have your jet in the entity where you have assets and things that could be taken if there's a problem with the jet. You also don't want to put it in an S corp, right? So that's a mistake we've seen people make is they put their
or
private
Schedule
jet,
C.
or in Schedule C, right? So getting some advice on entity structure around a private jet would be really important before you go down that path of buying something.
Yep.